I'm going down, mate.
It would be the best sequel to Battle at the Bridge.
Oh, that's a wild shout.
Yeah, I think it was maybe hoping a little bit too much that Tottenham would be able to do anything against Arsenal. I mean, it's nuts to think. Yeah, it was never real, was it?
But we can talk a little bit about the Burnley game and Rosenior as a whole, how things are at the moment, because we have had two bad results.
Keep talking about racism, to be honest.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Blues and Stripes. So today we have a very special occasion. I have two guests here, Matt from the Stamford Sink and Kai from Behind the Dugouts. Two guys who are very talented. You should definitely check out their channel. I will have the collaboration going on, so you guys can click through the links and find them there. But to get us started, I wanted to give you guys a chance. I know, obviously, you guys probably have more people that know you than know me, but in case there are people here who don't know you guys, Matt, we'll start with you. If you want to talk about your channel real quick.
Yeah, man, nice one. My name's Matt. I am the owner and creator of the Stamford Sink, where I talk about Chelsea, its news, reviews. I do a lot of like comparisons and stuff as well. I'm a bit of a nerd. I like getting into the stats, and I'm just a vibes guy, man. I just get on camera and do Chelsea vibes every day.
Very nice. And then Kai?
Yeah, man. Kai, Behind the Dugouts. Similar, do news reviews, take a look at games. I like to delve bit more into like the tactical side of the game. That's what excites me a little bit more. I just love talking football, man. Love talking football. So I'm happy to be here, happy to talk football with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, so just from what I've seen with you guys, I definitely feel like Kai, you have a lot more of the type of videos that I like to put out as well, delving into the tactics discussion. So definitely excited to talk to you. And Matt, we did do a collaboration before, had a lot of fun with it. So happy to have you guys both on. But to kick things off, did want to discuss a little bit some of the drama from last weekend, because we did see a very one-sided North London derby. I'll admit I didn't watch it because I was already frustrated from the Chelsea match, and it was my birthday weekend, so I decided I was done watching football after that one. Looking at Tottenham, that was where I really wanted to go first, because as Chelsea fans, we don't have a lot to be happy about at the moment, but one thing we can celebrate is how bad Tottenham currently are. So I did want to talk to you guys a little bit about Tottenham and just sort of get your thoughts about what's been going wrong with them this season. Is it Frank? Is it the board? Is it the players? I'll start with you, Kai. What are your thoughts based on what you've seen from them?
I think it's a combination of everything. I don't think the recruitment has been particularly great. I think a lot of the players that they wanted to get hold of, I mean, Eze was one of them, who seems to be coming back to haunt them all season. He was one of the players that they did want that didn't get. So I feel like it happened to them quite a lot during the transfer window, and they had to get their second choice, or maybe even their third choice, which you don't start off on the best foot. I don't think Frank was the right manager for that squad. He's very pragmatic, he's very defensively resolute, having pretty solid forwards up front, which Tottenham's defence is okay. They got a couple of good defenders, but not great. Their forwards, to me, are shocking. So it wasn't really a match made in heaven, and it just was spiraling down. And I'll be honest, I don't think this new guy is going to do them any favours whatsoever. I was hoping they would at least get a result against Arsenal, just because I don't want Arsenal winning the league. But I am still sitting up that we could get Arsenal not winning the league and Tottenham relegated in the same season. I mean, that could be beautiful.
I was really hoping for a draw as well. I mean, it would have been fantastic to see, because I had the same thought whenever Tottenham faced Man City. You know, it was honestly a result that didn't help them as far as staying out of the relegation battle, but it also didn't help them as far as they don't want to see Arsenal win the league either. They just took points away from Arsenal's best rival. So it was really funny to see in that sense, because Spurs fans have just had nothing to really grasp onto this season at all.
No, not even slightest, and it looks like it is getting worse, because you would hope with the new manager coming in, you'd get the new manager bounce even just a little bit. They just look the same.
Yeah.
So, and now they've just had an absolute whitewash against a rival team, London team. That's not going to do their confidence any great. So, I mean, it could get worse. It could get worse, and I hope it does.
It was at home too, right?
I don't actually know. I'm gonna check that now, because if it was, a long day.
But Matt, what are some of your thoughts based on what you've seen from him?
I'm going down, mate.
Oh yeah, was it?
No, the thing is, right, so I think it's really more complicated with Tottenham than it is with a lot of other teams, to be honest. Tottenham, I think the crux of their issue is a culture issue. I think that they've never bred a winning culture, but they act and spend like a winning team, right? So
sense.
the thing is, my examples for this are like, we'll go back a little bit further when they did well. Do you know what I mean? They had the best striker in the world, arguably. They had Son and, Moussa Dembele and Kyle Walker. Like, they had an absolutely unbelievable team. They couldn't get a tune out of them. Pochettino obviously did really well, but then they even tried bringing in actual winners. They brought in Mourinho and sacked him 2 days before a cup final. They brought in Conte, who is a proven winner pretty much everywhere he's ever been, and they still couldn't do it. So I think the issue that is caught up with them is they were kind of able to compete before because they had money, right? But because of the way that football's changed in the last 5 years in particular, it's getting really crazy now. What was it they spent on Solanke? 60 mil? 60 plus mil for Solanke. That's just the going rate for a player of his standard now. That 5, 6, 7 years ago, we'd have been looking at that being like, what? That's absolutely outrageous. But you see that now and it's like, that's just the going rate. So Tottenham can't even really outspend anymore because they have their limit. Do you know what I mean? Because they're not winning and stuff all the time. So I think what we're seeing, because it's not just this season, is it? It's last season as well.
Right.
And they finished 16th last season. Yes, they won the Europa League. I always win in my second season, mate. Do you know what I mean? Fair enough, whatever. I think, and obviously Daniel Levy's gone now and they're going for a restructure. They haven't bought well. They never buy well. They've gone through a lot of managers in a short space of time. And like I say, for me, I just think it all comes down to a culture thing. They've never had a strong, successful period. And they were able to cover that up with buying power before because they were always able to remain kind of competitive because they could outspend Crystal Palace, for instance. Do you know what I mean? But now Crystal Palace and Bournemouth and Brentford, do you know what I mean? These guys are all able to spend the similar sorts of money and bring in, because there's so much money in the Premier League now, all of a sudden Tottenham have lost the only kind of edge that they had. And I think we're just seeing the result of years of mismanagement and a lack of winning mentality and culture in the squad.
That makes sense. Now, I do, because a lot of Tottenham fans I've seen online have been asking the question of, should they have stuck with Ange Postecoglou? So me personally, I look at Ange and I see some of what he brought. Honestly, looking at their team, I've said it for the past couple of years now, there are not many, if any, players that I would take at Chelsea at the moment. The only player that I think might improve us would be Van de Ven in defense, and that's just because our defense is our weakest part at the moment. But even with him, he's had his string of injuries. Romero is also very talented, but he's discipline problem waiting to happen. Outside of that, maybe Kulusevski, but he's now been hurt for most of the season. So I look at this group of players and think they're not good enough, and yet Ange took them and actually won something with them. So you could make the argument that he did have a winning mentality, but also look at what he did to him in the league. Yeah,
the squad's better than where they are now, though. And last year's squad was better than where they finished as well. That would kind of be my counterpoint to that is
That's
like, true. The players, if all of those players were at Crystal Palace, they'd be in the top 10. Do you know what I mean? In terms of they're not quite as bad. The collection of players there, do you know what I mean? So I think it's a complicated one. I do see what you're saying, though.
All right, so one thing that I did do, because I'm a massive nerd and I do accounting, so I work with spreadsheets a lot. There we go. All right, so I did a little deep dive, looked at all the teams that are in the relegation battle. The only one that is kind of outside of, I would say, survival is Burnley, but I decided to include them because they have had a little upturn in form with a win recently. But everybody from 15th down to 19th are in this little relegation scrap. We've got Leeds, we got Tottenham, we got Forest, we got West Ham, we got Burnley. So Tottenham very much in this. The form points, as you can see, we got 6 for Leeds over the past 5 matches. Tottenham only have 2, Forest have 5, West Ham have 8, Burnley have 5. Honestly, looking at the average team place in the table of the teams that they faced, Leeds, the average team that they faced, 7th place, Tottenham 7.4. Forest and Burnley had the 2 easiest runs, and West Ham was somewhere in the middle. Also looking at the place of the teams that they have left, Leeds have the easiest run in, Tottenham have 2nd easiest, Forest and Burnley have somewhere in the middle, and then West Ham have the hardest run in. So it's kind of interesting to see that Tottenham, they have had a pretty rough run of games. They only take 2 points away from those games, but they do have one of the easier run-ins, as does Leeds. But a couple of, I guess, notes that I took on all of this. So Tottenham and Forest are the 2 teams that are still in Europe, so they will have more games to play, assuming they stay in the competitions that they're in. Leeds and West Ham are the only 2 teams still in the FA Cup, So Burnley, out of all these 5, are the only team without any extra games to play outside the league. Tottenham and Wolves are the only 2 teams in the league without a win in the past 5 matches, which is obviously not a good look for them. Leeds and West Ham play each other on the final day, so that's going to be a very exciting clash. And then as far as the teams that are facing the top 2, Tottenham has already played Arsenal and City. Leeds and Forest have already played Arsenal, but they haven't played City. And then West Ham and Burnley still have both to play. So just a little look as far as what the current relegation battle looks like. So based on that, you could make a lot of points about that. Honestly, stats for me in this scenario, it always feels a little weird to talk about because, like I said, Leeds had probably the hardest run-in of the past 5 matches. They also took the second most points out of these 5. Yes, sometimes it does matter based on the team you're about to face. And that's something we'll come back to whenever we talk about Chelsea in the top 5 race. But at the same time, it does sort of go to show that a lot of these teams that have had difficult run-ins recently, like Tottenham, like Leeds, their seasons are all going to get a little bit easier based on who they're facing. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to take max points away, though. Final question, though, based on this relegation battle for you guys. Do you think there is a very real chance that we could see Tottenham going down the season based on like West Ham, Burnley, Forest, and Leeds? Do you think these guys will drop enough points, or do you think they'll take enough points and Tottenham will drop enough points that we might see a big team like Tottenham drop out of the Premier League this season?
I think West Ham's going to be the one. I think it's going to be a battle between West Ham. I mean, Forest maybe as well, to be fair. The biggest stat that I would say is...
Nearly got a result out of their last game, though, didn't they, Forest, with their new manager as well? It was close.
So I think form is going to play a key factor. And by the looks of it, we said Tottenham average place is 12th, isn't it, that they'll be playing? So 12. So they're going to be coming up against teams that are potentially in and around that fighting for survival, which... if they're going into these games in bad form, on the edge of a knife, whether they're going to hit the relegation zone or not, it could make it a very stressful and a very tough time for them to even manage that, because mentality must be, rock bottom at the moment. They've lost another manager. They are sitting bottom of the league, somewhere where they never thought they would ever be.
Right.
And they can't string a result against anybody at the moment. So I feel like there's a massive possibility that they're going down.
Mate, I think there's a distinct possibility that it could be us that does it to them, because we're their second to last game, aren't we?
Yeah.
So it literally could be... Can you imagine?
Can
you imagine? Oh, mate. But that's the thing, isn't it? Is like the way it plays out, because like you said, Tottenham are going to be playing a lot of teams that are in and around that same area that they are. Based on how a lot of those results could go, we could literally relegate Tottenham, which would be... That'd be something, man.
It would be the best sequel to Battle at the Bridge, where we took the title away from them.
I think the thing is, it's like the manager they've brought in has almost zero pedigree in the grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? And this is more than just keeping a team up. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
This isn't like, getting a Sam Allardyce in to keep you up or whatever. It's like you're talking about Tottenham, whose entire team, for the most part, will probably leave. And this is the other thing. This is the difference as well. Like when you're talking about relegation battles, a lot of the times, a few teams will have like, okay, well, these top players will probably go if we get relegated, but we'll probably keep hold of everyone else and come straight back up, like Newcastle did when they went down, for instance.
Right.
But with Tottenham, their entire team will probably leave for the most part. So the mentality of the players is they probably care a little bit less, don't they? Because they're probably like, look, I don't really care, because if Tottenham go down, I'm just going to go somewhere else. It's like when Aston Villa went down all those years ago. Was it Joleon Lescott? Joleon Lescott had come out and been like, yeah, we're just kind of ready for the season to be over. And the Aston Villa fans went mental at him because they were like, yeah, well, we've got to go down to the Championship. It's all right for you because you'll get to go to like Turkey or whatever. That's probably how a lot of these players are feeling at the moment. So I think it will be interesting to see, because obviously the Arsenal game was always never really going to be an indication of whether they were going to be able to do it with this new manager and if the new manager bounce works or whatever. But this guy was got sacked by Wolves for being terrible. Do you know what I mean?
He's been sacked by everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think he's like walked away or whatever, parted ways or finished his contract. I think he's been sacked everywhere he's gone.
I feel like I saw his CV was a lot of teams for very short spans of time. Like not much, which is ironic since we actually just had a manager last season here and for Atlanta United who basically the same thing, just everywhere for about a year. And when I saw that, I'm thinking, well, this can't be good. And sure enough, we didn't even make playoffs. We were that bad. So very scary moments for Tottenham, which for us, I think, is a joyous time.
Joyous.
This is why I talk about culture as well, though, man, because if they had like a winning mentality or a good culture, they wouldn't have got an interim manager in to get them out of this situation that doesn't have a track record. So the players see them bring this guy in, and it's not on an interim basis as well, isn't it? Because that literally says, if we get relegated, I'm not staying. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, and that's why I think the mentality and the culture, you know, is.
I suppose it also could be the fact that who would they attract being in the position that they are in?
Sean Dyche's free.
Yeah, I suppose.
Are there any former Tottenham players that are in the manager market at the moment that have a good feeling with the club that might have come back? Kind of like a Carrick for Man U, what he's doing right now.
Who's the guy that keeps taking over?
Ryan Mason.
He's done it
Ryan Mason.
That's the
Ryan
one.
Mason.
Yeah,
he had to retire really early, didn't he? Because he got that horrible injury.
Yeah.
So I think he's still like in his 30s. You know, I could maybe see him getting the job if they go down to the Championship, but he was always terrible. Whenever he's taken over Tottenham, it's not ever gone really well, is it? But yeah, I love it, man. I would love to see. There's not a lot of things to be excited about as a Chelsea fan for this season, but Tottenham potentially getting relegated by us is maybe going to be the biggest moment of the season.
All right, fantastic. So moving on, something else that I did want to discuss, obviously another big talking point. Both Arsenal and Man City get their wins right after Arsenal did drop points to Wolves, which is a huge blow to them. And so we did want to, I guess, look at the title race as well and get some thoughts about that. I'll go ahead and bring the spreadsheet back up. So as you can see, they're both in pretty solid form. No losses in the last 5. We got 3 wins and 2 draws for Arsenal, 4 wins and 1 draw for Man City. However, I think the kind of interesting stat amongst that is Arsenal have had an easier run of fixtures and have taken less points in that time, but they both have about the same level of team that they're going to be facing over the rest of the season. Obviously, Man City have the game at hand. They do also face each other in the League Cup final, as well as in the league itself. So there are a lot of very interesting possibilities, I think, coming out of this match that I'm kind of excited to see where it goes. Obviously, we all probably prefer that Man City win over Arsenal, the league this season. Just to get your guys' thoughts, because as I said, I didn't watch a lot of the games after Chelsea drew this weekend. So Man City, Newcastle, did you guys watch it? Did you have any thoughts about how they looked? And for Arsenal, was it a case of Arsenal were just that much better than Spurs, or Spurs are just that bad right now?
I didn't watch.
Arsenal always would have won, but I think Spurs were pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was a slight change in the way that Arsenal played with Gyökeres coming in. I don't feel like they've particularly played to his strengths that well, to the point where he's looked like a waste of money. But against Tottenham, they used his strengths a bit more. You could see he was running into the space with the ball rather than having his back to the goal all the time. And, you know, he got some good finishes away. Not going to lie, that one on the edge of the box was pretty decent. But whether that was just a one-off and they're just going to revert back to, set pieces and basically getting their defenders to score all the goals, which goal's a goal at the end of the day, but you can't really rely on that to get you to the end of the line. We'll see. I think time's to come. But yeah, I think it was maybe hoping a little bit too much that Tottenham would be able to do anything against Arsenal, unfortunately.
Yeah. I kind of had the same thought as well.
I still think City are going to do it, man. It was my prediction from the start of the season, even before the season started. And I think at this point, City have done this before. Do you know what I mean? Where like there was the season with the Aguero goal where it went to the wire, and they've done it with Liverpool where it's gone to the wire and it's taken them. It's not like every single time City have won the league they've always just completely stormed it. Do you know what I mean? That does happen more often than not, but they also have a culture and a mentality of fighting to the last moment in order to get these big wins. Arsenal are serial bottlers essentially, and like basically backing off of what Kai just said there, I don't think they can be relying on set pieces and corners and big headed plays and stuff to win them the league. City smell blood now, because the truth of the fact of where it is, if City win all of their remaining games, obviously, which I think includes Arsenal, they win the league, even where they're at now. So City are in the driving seat. Even though Arsenal were first, City are actually in the driving seat at the moment, and that is going to be a lot of pressure on them, and they're going to need to deal with that.
Based on what I've seen recently from City, I said it a little bit in my preview for the Burnley match, but Arsenal dropping points to Wolves, it was a huge blow. It's embarrassing. Obviously, they don't want to deal with that pressure of, oh crap, now City are just right behind us. But I will say for City, something that I have noticed this season is there have been some matches. I mean, the Tottenham match is a great example. Probably the weakest Spurs side that we've seen in years. And for some reason, they're still a banana skin for City. So I feel like this has been probably the weakest City side that I've seen. it does feel like, the Newcastle match this weekend was a great example. They still got over the line. But it does seem like they are relying a little bit more this season on those lucky breaks rather than what we've seen in the past, which is just these Pep super teams where he has all of the best players. It feels like this has to be a lot more of a maybe utilizing some of individual strengths rather than just having a team full of wonderfully talented players that can all handle it week in, week out.
Each team has kind of got something different going for them. Like, it's interesting you say, like, obviously we're looking at quite a weak City team. On the reverse of that, I don't think we're looking at a particularly strong looking Arsenal team in terms of a title winning team. Right, when you think back like to all of the teams that have won the title over the last like 10, 20 years or whatever, this looks like one of the weakest teams. Do you know what I mean? Like Trossard and Martinelli, Bukayo Saka, who scored like 7 goals in the league. Do you know what I mean? Kai was talking about Gyökeres earlier, who's just not looked on it at all. Odegaard's not been that good. Eze has turned up against Tottenham and that's about it. They look like they've got title winning midfield, title winning defence and title winning goalkeeper, but the strength of the entire team doesn't look like a title winning team, does it, when you think about it? So for me, it's like Arsenal have got a really well organised team, but City have got more star power and more quality. And I would hazard a guess that your Erling Haaland and your Rayan Cherki and those moments that those players can create by being allowed to express themselves occasionally and stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think that will probably win them more games than, like Kai said as well earlier, like just expecting Declan Rice to score an outrageous free kick or Hincapié to score a header or Mikel Merino or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Right. And that's kind of what I mean when I say like this City team is not the same that it used to be, where Pep could just set up however he wanted to. He had the team built specifically for him, whereas now it feels like he's a lot more focused on the type of players like a Haaland or like a Semenyo to turn up and do something fantastic. Whereas in the past, when he got a player like Grealish, it felt like he didn't really know what to do with them because he preferred not to have those individualistic type of players. He wanted the team to all fit together. And so a player like Mahrez, who he was good, but I don't think he was superstar quality. I feel like he fit better into Pep's system than...
Oh, that's a wild shout. I don't think Mahrez was superstar quality, mate.
I think he was a very good talent.
Oh, mate. Mahrez at Leicester as well. Like, oh, mate, I don't know. I mean, football's a game of opinions, isn't it? But yeah, that's for me, man. Mahrez was magic, absolute magic.
I feel like when I'm speaking more individual quality, like he did have some very great moments individually, but I personally felt like he was better at connecting with the players around him. When I looked at Grealish, he wanted to do a lot of it himself, which worked fine when he was at a more mid-table side like Villa was at the time. But when it went to City, I don't think we saw that from him as much, whereas I feel like Mahrez still flourished because he was a lot more of a team type of player, and I think he fit into Pep's system better because of that. So I realize might be a bit of a hot take, not to say that he is an individual superstar, but personally, that's where I saw him. I saw him as a very good system player for Pep.
It's also mad to think though, right? Because Pep probably had one of the best players on the planet, world class, can do it all himself, can do whatever in his side, and he managed him perfectly. But he's not been able to do it with that type of player ever since. And I get Messi is a freak. Yeah. He's a freak of nature. Like, I get it, But he was, he could string the team together and win 5-0, or he could go and win the game 5-0 himself. That's the kind of player he had. But when Pep's been given not players of that caliber, but that kind of quality in terms of the way that they want to play, he's not been able to produce the same thing. That's why Grealish disappeared. I mean, even Doku, who was, that explosive 1v1, want to take everyone on, he done nothing. Savinho, another one, and this is all just recent time, but you can go back and players like that, just, I don't know what it is. You even look at the Bayern Munich days and things like that, and you just think, why? When you had that, you had like the blueprint of football with you, and you've not been able to emulate it anywhere with any of those type of players again. But
he did actually say though, didn't he? He came out and said he was like, only Messi doesn't have to have instruction. I seem to remember him saying that in an interview once. He's like, Messi's the only player ever that can get away with just playing the game the way that he wants.
Not to take it too far into a Messi comparison, but I honestly do think that's something Messi had that a lot of these individual quality players like Grealish don't have, which is he had the ability to connect with the team around him too. Like I always personally said I would prefer, even though Ronaldo obviously very talented, I prefer Messi in that debate between the two of them because I prefer to have more squad players than to have the individual brilliantly talented, but they're in it for themselves. They're going to score a load of goals themselves. They need the team around them to help them get the goals. Messi would help the team. Like, he was that type of player for me. But moving on from all of that, because that's a completely different discussion. We might have that in the future. But now we do have, obviously, Chelsea to get into, because it has been a bit of a rough couple of games for us. But going back to the spreadsheet one final time.
Started so well.
Yeah. It was so fun up until now.
We have the top 5 race here. We have Villa, United, Chelsea, Liverpool. Villa, surprisingly enough, being drawn back into this. They have the weakest form over the past 5 matches with 8 points. Liverpool with 9. We have 11. Man U have 13. As far as the teams that we've faced, this is where things get a little bit embarrassing for us, because we have faced the weakest teams. I believe we faced everybody in and around the relegation zone. We faced Leeds, we faced West Ham, we faced Burnley, we faced Wolves.
Just Forest again to play, I think.
Just Forest and Tottenham we haven't played down there. And I think the other one was Palace, who were in 13th. So obviously we've had the easiest run in, and on the counterpoint, as far as the games left, we have the hardest run-in with 8.6. Everybody else is around 10 and 11, so a lot more bottom half to mid-table teams to face. Funny enough, this is where things get very interesting, because all of these teams in this top 5 race have yet to play each other. Unfortunately, we are one of 2 teams alongside Liverpool that have to go away for 2 out of the 3 matches that we play. We go to Villa, we go to Liverpool.
Probably suits us, to be honest, mate. Our home form has been terrible.
Yeah,
this is a good point.
I'd much rather go away at the moment then, because it seems that we just absolutely crack under pressure at home.
Right. And then finally, some interesting notes. So United and Liverpool have already played City and Arsenal. Villa just has Arsenal left to play. Or no, they have played Arsenal. They just have City left to play. And then we still have to face both City and Arsenal, which is why our run-in is a lot tougher. Chelsea and Liverpool are the only 2 out of these teams that are still in the FA Cup. And then United are the only team out of this 4 that don't have any extra matches to play. They are playing the bare minimum number of matches that you could play in a season, which is a little bit embarrassing for them, but it does give them a little bit of a leg up in this final run-in.
Save their season, man. 100% is save their season. That, and obviously changing out for Carrick, but no, that's it was like when we won the league with Conte, we were basically in no other competitions. Like, we didn't have Champions League or anything, so you got all of that extra time. And not to put down the job that Michael Carrick's done, of course he's done a great job, but at the same time, like, that's the difference, isn't it?
He's got more time to implement things, hasn't he? And you know, work with the team and bass out a bunch of the stuff that Amorim would have, you know, been instilling them over the last two seasons or so. Yeah, I mean, it's
like
nuts to think.
Amorim, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was never real, was it?
No, it's beautiful. I loved it, and I'm so sad it's gone.
Something that I do want to pose real quick, not to take this into a video that I wasn't really planning on, but comparing Maresca and Amorim, I do see some similarities there, as far as they both had a system and a style that they wanted to implement, and it was basically that or nothing else. It was that, and if we lose, we lose. Maresca even said at one point, I remember last season with Sanchez, you know, when he was trying to pass out from the back, basically said, like, that's how it's going to happen, and if he gives it away, like, that's on me, because that's how I want him to play. And Amorim was very much the same way. He wanted to stick with his 3-4-3. He didn't want to make any changes, and also both of them kind of came out swinging at the board. Maresca left after that, and Amorim got sacked after that. So just as far as a real quick comparison, where do you guys feel like Amorim is as far as level of manager? Like, is he going to get another top level job, or has he kind of screwed himself over with his performance at Man U? Start with Matt.
It's about scale for me. So these managers, your Marescas and your Amorims, these system guys, have made their name by implementing their systems and their philosophies, right? Like, that's the big catch term, isn't it? Philosophies at these clubs with ultimately less expectation and in need of less investment. That's the truth. But in order to come and implement your philosophy at Premier League level, you need to completely, absolutely 100% rehaul the team with the manager's instruction in mind. And that didn't happen for either of them, is the honest answer. So it was probably doomed to fail for both of them. I think Amorim was more unlucky than Maresca was. I think Maresca was given a lot better tools to work with in terms of his system than Amorim was. I think if Amorim, they tried to back Amorim, to be fair. Do you know what I mean? They did, but like you said, he came out swinging, and we're seeing that a lot more, like Glasner and Crystal Palace and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Managers coming out now and kind of throwing their clubs under the bus. It's becoming a lot more prevalent. I think Amorim will not go straight back into a top job. I think Maresca would be probably more likely to get a better job, you know, Club World Cup, and I mean, obviously got Chelsea into the Champions League, and you know, what was it, the Conference League as well. Couple of trophies under his belt, whereas Amorim's not really got anything of note to kind of talk about other than loss after loss after loss after loss after loss. So yeah, I think if I'm honest, I think given exactly what they want, they probably do about as well as each other. But I think that Maresca's more likely to do well now just because he actually won some stuff.
Kai?
Yeah, I think Maresca's got more of a chance of landing a top job because, again, he was on some relatively good form, got some trophies behind him in what everybody can see as an absolutely, you know, turbulent time at Chelsea, you know. So he's had to battle that probably more so than Amorim. I still stand by that Amorim probably would have been better suited to Chelsea than he was at United because we are built for that kind of style. You know, we've got the wing backs to do it. Reece James, on his day, best in the world at that sort of position. We were built for that system. At United, it was never for him. And to be fair, the United players were just not up to standard. Reputation-wise, yeah, I think he's taken a bit of a hit. I see him going to Spain or something, to be honest. Spain or back to Portugal, but I don't think it's going to be another Premiership. I'll be very surprised if we do see him back in the Premier League. Maresca, I think, will get a Premier League job, I think.
I could see him at like Atletico or something, Amorim, if Diego Simeone ever steps down. Do you know what I mean? That kind of solid, aggressive football seems to suit them, doesn't it? That's a good shout, Kai.
Interesting. All right, well, I guess moving on to talking specifically about Chelsea. So we'll discuss the Burnley match a little bit. First and foremost, I want to talk about something that is not as fun or as funny to talk about, which is, of course, everything that happened with Fofana, the online abuse, the racist abuse he received. And this is something I discussed a little bit in my talking about Vinny Jr. and what happened with him. It's something that I don't feel like I have a great perspective on coming from America. The racist incidents we have here sometimes get blown out of the water, or sometimes just people crying big bad wolf when there's nothing really there. It does feel like it is a lot more serious, a lot more for sure. And I think there were even some screenshots shared of some of the messages he received. So obviously, I think we all pretty much stand firm on the idea that racism is idiotic and shouldn't be anywhere near the sport. I guess to give you guys, I know, Matt, you did have a video about this already. So Kai, if you just I guess wanted to share your thoughts and share some perspective for somebody who maybe doesn't see as much of that from all the way over here in America.
I'll be real, man. It's disgusting to see that 2026 and we're still dealing with this shit. Obviously, I'm not dealing with it, but for these players to still go through this in 2026, it's ridiculous, man. And I did a little short on it when it came out because it came out and I saw it and I was fuming to see that he had gone through this. You know, every player is going to go through a bad performance. Every player's not going to have their best game or make a mistake that could be detrimental to the team in that sort of game. Does that mean they deserve abuse? No. Does that mean they deserve racist abuse? Hell no. And these people behind their little keyboards, their computer screens, scum of the earth, think that it's okay to do this. It's disgusting. I'm shocked. And I obviously read some of the message or the screenshots and, you know, saying, I'm not going to repeat what it said, but in there they're saying, you've lost us this game. So these are Chelsea fans saying this. I don't want these people associated with the club. They're not fans. I mean, I know you said it, Matt. They're not real fans. Nor should they be fans. They shouldn't be associated with football, but not just football in general, because, you know, say no to racism is a big thing in football now, but in the world, this shouldn't be a thing. What's your colour got to do with anything? For me, has no reason to be brought up in any conversation whatsoever. I just can't believe this is the world that we live in, to be honest.
Matt, I'll throw this question to you. Is this something that you guys tend to see mostly online, or, I mean, I know there have been some instances in the crowds where this has happened, right?
Yeah, not as much in the UK anymore because they've gotten really, really strict. Like, if you are caught hurling racist abuse at a player, you're banned for life. That's it now. There's a zero tolerance policy on racism in the football stadium. So it has been mostly relegated to online. And one of the issues with this as well is they might be Chelsea fans, but they're not necessarily all from the UK either, because Chelsea is an international brand. Do you know what I mean? There are Chelsea fans all across the world, so that's kind of the issue, isn't it? But yeah, no, it definitely was a thing back in the day. It's a lot more prevalent in some other European countries, like Italy in particular. There's still quite a lot of this that goes on. There's some culture wars that definitely happen with racism in football over there. But in terms of, yeah, we don't, you like I say, most fans, you know, season tickets are so expensive. It is so expensive to watch football in the UK. UK, getting a season ticket. Chelsea has like a 10-year waiting list or whatever for a season ticket. Do you know what I mean? So it's coming as well. Good things like when Roman Abramovich was here. I think there was some anti-Semitism going on at a Tottenham game. And Roman Abramovich like found the people that had thrown the abuse in the crowd and took them to Auschwitz and made them, if they said that if you want to keep your season ticket, you've basically got to do this like anti-racism thing that we're gonna send you through. So for quite a long time in the UK, in the actual stadium, we've been fighting against it for sure.
That's good. Just something did want to address, did want to, I guess, all throw our hats in the ring of saying like this is stupid. Kai, like you said, the fact that it's 2026 and we still have people that want to criticize or insult somebody just because of the color of their skin, it really doesn't make any sense. Because like, I mean, I'm a big science guy, so for me it's like, yeah, okay, the melatonin in your skin makes you look a different way. Like, why does that even matter to anybody? So
what's that got to do with how you play football?
Exactly.
Tell me, like,
I mean,
nothing.
We've had so many different incredibly talented players of all colors throughout our history. I've got a Conte little bobblehead because Conte is one of my favorite players. You know, Zola is another one, Gudjonsson, Hasselbank. Like, I have so many great memories of guys from all over the world. Every type of skin color is just like, why is this?
I think just before we wrap that up, one thing that I think if there is going to be anyone that's watching this, I think the message that needs to be put through, if anyone watching this has an opportunity to have a discussion or a conversation with someone online or in person about this and voice your opinion, you should, because the players need to get the love back to them, because what can't happen is racist. Like, imagine, I mentioned it in my video, you know, we're going to struggle to go in for some of the best players in the world if they think, oh, well, if I have one bad game, I'm going to get it in the neck with racist abuse from Chelsea fans. Do you know what I mean? So the overarching thing for this for me is if you have the ability in any moment in your life, whether it be online or in person, to speak up about this, then you should, because the players need the support in order to feel the love and for us to try and clean our club a little bit.
Absolutely. So with that being said, now we can move on to not necessarily more fun stuff, because not really a whole lot of fun stuff to talk about right now with Chelsea, but we could talk a little bit about the Burnley game and I guess Senior as a whole, how things are at the moment, because we have had two bad results.
Talking about racism, to be honest.
Well, we've had two bad results, and unfortunately that does give a lot of credence to the people that are very doom and gloom about the club and are doom and gloom about our chances going forward for this season. Personally, I am not of the opinion that this dashes our Champions League hopes. I think even though we do have a very tough run in for the rest of the season, I think we've still got plenty of chances to pick up points. We're a team that can turn up on any day and beat any team. Personally, do think Senior has done well since he's come in. One thing that I'm a big fan of is the fact that I see his subs typically outside of the Burnley match are affecting the game positively. They're actually making changes to the team, where I feel like Maresca's subs were very like for like, and every time his subs were made, it either made us worse or we just sort of stayed the same for the rest of the match. Personally, I do see a bit more from Senior as far as his tactics, his adaptability, and his subs that give me a bit more excited for the rest of the season. So Kai, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts going into the rest of the season? Are you hopeful? Are you also one of those fans that just thinks we're basically not making Champions League this season? What are your thoughts?
Can never write us off. I just don't have it in me. No matter what sort of frame of mind, we went through this last season, didn't we? Same sort of time. We had maybe a little bit less games. I think we had 6 or 7 towards the end of the season then, and we didn't think that was going to be possible, and we managed to do it. You would argue maybe tougher circumstances this time. I think a lot more games, but against tougher opposition this time. But I can never write us off, man. Can never write us off, because I've seen what we can do when we're on it. There's still a lot of work Rosinia needs to do. A lot. If I take one positive Burnley game, and I still can't believe I'm saying this because there wasn't much to take out of it, the one positive is that he learnt there are players, and he said it himself, that he cannot rely on. Which, you know, there's players that I can see in there that I could have told him that before taking over. I would have, you know, if he wanted, I would have sent him a WhatsApp message to say, look, mate, don't trust these geezers. But he's learnt that now.
Who do you think he was talking about?
I think Totson is one. I think Totson is a big factor in it. I'm trying to think who was on the back post, because I think Hatto was part of it. And I'm not going to say he couldn't rely on Hatto, but in terms of the biggest thing that he came out and said is that they were given an assignment or a task in order to deal with, because they will go on, and you see them sometimes whip out their little whiteboard and go, oh, no, this and this and this. They're basically saying, you know, if this situation occurs, i.e. a corner, if you're coming on as a defender, if it occurs, I want you on maybe this player, or I want you, because a lot of it is zonal marking now, which I freaking hate, mark this zone. And if a player enters this zone, this is your player. And the player that they had tasked to mark this specific zone did not do his job. So he has realised that there are players that he's given a task to, that they're not either listening, they don't want to, they're ignorant, whatever, or they physically can't take on the instruction. He has learnt that, and unfortunately we had to suffer loss of points for him to learn that. Hopefully going towards the end of the season, he will now not rely on these players or player, maybe in this situation. Again, I also saw, and I know you watched my review, you mentioned the same in your review, a bit of naivety taking Reece James off.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was the biggest mistake in that game. You don't take a leader off. I mean, I think we were 86 minute when they took him off. There was barely any time left. What's the point? You're saving him for Arsenal. He's got a whole week to rest. There's 5-6 minutes left of a game. What are you taking him off for? When we need to galvanise the team, you need a player that's going to lead the team when we're going through some tough times. That for me was a big mistake. Mm-hmm. And again, something that he will learn from. But the freedom that he's allowing our front players to play with, I enjoy. I think we have played at times better football under him than we did at Maresca. It's just not sustained. It's in patches. It's like a good 20 minutes and then we have a very shocking next 25. But if he can find a way to sustain that and play that football throughout, I think we'll beat a lot of teams. But
couple things I want to take off what you said there. First of all, the learning from it. I think that's something we saw after the Arsenal, the first leg in the League Cup. He tried that passing out with Sanchez. He tried to go short with him, and we saw what happened. And I think ultimately, since then, he's not really had him do it as much, if at all. And so I do think he seems to be learning from those mistakes, and that was also something that I had an issue with Maresca. There would be times whenever he'd make a mistake. One thing that I had on my channel is I would have Maresca out in some of the thumbnails prior to him getting let go, because I said if he played Tosin again after that match where he came in and dropped all 3 points against Leeds.
Leeds, yeah.
I was done. I didn't want to see Tosin again. I'm like, if you play him again, I'm done. I'm Maresca out for the rest of the season. And then he plays him again against Atalanta, and we drop all 3 points after he comes in. And that's for me where I don't think Maresca, it felt like he was learning from his mistakes. Rosenior, for me, he's made some mistakes, but he's also learned. He's already shown he's willing to change how he's doing things to make the team as a whole better. And then on top of that, like you said with the James sub, the more I thought about it, the more I wondered, because I think at the same time he took off James, I'm trying to remember who else he took off for that one.
I feel like was it not a midfielder?
It was Santos.
No, it's because Santos, the one mistake he made in the match was not tracking Fleming for the goal. I remember it was James, and it might have been it was Neto. That was it. I do wonder, because he brought on Sarr, he brought on Achimpong. I wonder if in his mind he was thinking, let's get 2 of the shorter guys off. Let's get 2 tall guys on. And the problem with that thinking is that doesn't always equate better in the air. I mean, we saw James at one point beat somebody to a header because he just has more fight and desire to get up there. So it's something that if that was his thinking, he'll have to realize just bringing on more height doesn't really help you in the box. You have to have players that are willing to go fight for it, and James is that type of player. And I think Neto is too, to be honest.
I also think positionally it messes everything up. I mean, towards the end of the game, we had 6 centre backs on the field, all trying to occupy a centre back space. It doesn't work. In an ideal world, and you look at it, go, oh, if I throw so many centre backs on, they're all centre backs, they all can defend in the air. It's going to work. Of course, no, because you've got 2 centre back spots. You've obviously got your right and left back, and you're trying to cram 6 defensive minding centre back players into this defensive part of the pitch, and hoping that they all manage to understand where they are positionally. And that's what I felt like it was. I don't see them all going on with a clear instruction. You play this side, you play here, you mark this zone. I feel like it was just defend it. Try and see the game out. Just do whatever you can. And you can't do that, man. You can't. And nor do I want my manager to do that. So I hope he's going to learn from that.
We saw it with Maresca putting fullbacks on at the end of the game as well, didn't we? Like Maresca would be like, oh, we need a goal. Do you know what I'll do? I'll put all of the fullbacks we've got on, and maybe that will get us a goal. It's a similar sort of thing, and it smacks of panic to me, which is part of the issue as well. Because I think when you think about mentality, if the team sees we're losing these guys and a load of centre backs are coming on, then all of a sudden everyone's thinking, where, like Kai's just said, like, where do I need to be? What am I going to do and stuff? Mm-hmm. So even just like, unless he'd specifically said, which is unlikely, if we get to this point, I'm going to throw loads of centre-backs on, there's going to be 6 centre-backs on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? And you know, he needs to be here. If you don't know that that's coming, and then you see Achiampong and Sarr coming on, and you're looking around and there's a Tosin and all these other guys and everything else, it must be a little bit, right, like, if anything, that can create more of like an anxious kind of state of mind. And, you know, when you come to trying to defend a lead in a game like that, it's obviously counteractive, isn't it? One thing I liked about Rosenior, and we've kind of mentioned it already, is what Kai said, is when Rosinia said that I've learned that I can't rely on some of the players. Now, what Maresca used to do was Maresca would come out and say Badiashile was bad, Fofana was bad, Garnacho didn't track his man. Do you know what I mean? He'd throw his players under the bus categorically. I like what Rosinia has done, and he's come out and he's challenged the players, because the players will know who he's talking about. We can speculate and we can guess and whatever, but whoever the player he's got in mind, if he didn't already know, he'll have been told later. But he didn't just directly come and throw these players under the bus. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that will ultimately help foster a better team mentality than every player feeling like, oh, if we have a bad performance, the manager's going to dig me out in the press and I'm going to get loads of comments on social media about it the next day. Do you know what I mean? So I did like that about Rosinia, because one of my biggest issues with Maresca was I found it a bit petty sometimes when he would just dig players out after a game, and it's not really what I want to see from my manager.
Absolutely. Matt, kind of come to you with the same question, though, about our chances for the end of the season. Do you think that we have enough as far as the players and as far as Rosinia is concerned? Do you think that we're going to comfortably finish top 5, definitely in the Champions League spot? Do you think it's going to cut it close? What are your feelings?
Yeah, I think it's going to be like it was at the end of last season, man. I think the problem is it's unlikely that we're going to win all of our games, isn't it? From a statistical point of view. Do you know what I mean? If we're just looking at the numbers, it is unlikely that we're going to win the next 11 games. So categorically, we're relying on other teams around us. Now, what we can do, I think the biggest results that we can get are the results against teams like Aston Villa, where we're somewhere in and around them. Do you know what I mean? Those are the biggest kind of results. And the most effect that we can have on our position is making sure we get points in the games where, it's, like I say, we can really benefit. But I think the truth of the fact is, man, with 11, 10 games left to go in the season, we're at this point already. Our squad still looks like it hasn't had a pre-season. Do you know what I mean? There's still so many questions every single time we go into a game. We don't have a best first 11. We've got so few reliable players that are fit all of the time. Do you know what I mean? We haven't, but this entire season has been chopping and changing our starting 11 to deal with situations, and that's not going to change. Do you know what I mean? That's not going to change. So yeah, I've got a feeling. I absolutely think we can do it. We've 100%. We've got the squad. The squad itself, just from technical ability, is good enough for us all ready to be comfortably. We should be where Aston Villa are, and maybe even a little bit better off than that when you think about the games that we've not gotten results out of. Just based on how the season's gone, yeah, I think it's going to be a dogfight, to be honest. But like I say, I think the main focus needs to be on winning the games against the teams that are close to us, because that will give us a mental advantage.
So one final thing, I guess, to discuss before we wrap things up here is some of the reaction online that we've seen from other content creators, other Chelsea fans. There was a guy in my comments section for the Burnley review saying that Blueco has officially destroyed the club, which is hilarious to me considering we're a destroyed club and yet Tottenham are down in the relegation zone nearly. So it's just funny to me to see like what destroyed club is in some people's minds. But I did want to discuss Blueco a little bit because I've been of the opinion that they're not great. They definitely have their issues. The transfer policy is probably my biggest hang up with them. I don't think it's a good idea to solely focus on just signing kids, not having any leadership or experience in the team. I 100% agree with that criticism. But at the same time, I also look at some of what they've done. I think the medical staff has gotten a lot of stick for just doing their jobs, basically, trying to keep these players fit because we've had so many muscular injuries over the past few years. So they're getting a lot of stick for resting players like Palmer, who have been dealing with injuries this season, or James Fofana. And as well, I think the transfer team, while we aren't getting in the experience we need, I do think we've been bringing in some very talented players. Esteval's a great player. Palmer, Caicedo, Fernandez, all great players. So I kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about it, get some other opinion. Do you guys think that Blueco has destroyed us, or do you think this is maybe a bit of an overreaction to the fact that we are in a rough point at our current history?
I want to ask another question first before we get into it. Who is a great owner?
That is probably, it's based on opinion.
Well, the thing is, like, we're obviously hyperbolic about it because we're Chelsea fans, but the truth of the fact is, you could call Man City great owners, but they're facing 115 charges that might see them relegated with a points tally next year from the Premier League, depending on what goes on. You could say Arsenal have got good owners because they're doing well at the moment, but their fans were screaming Kroenke's out for 10 years plus and making a fool of themselves. Liverpool, yeah, they hired Klopp, things got better, but up until then, it was FSG out, you've destroyed our club. Football is run by by capitalist monsters, and our capitalist monsters are no better or worse than any of the other capitalist monsters that own Premier League clubs. So for me personally, I don't spend too much time talking about the owners, because I think every owner of a football club is basically, like I say, an evil capitalist monster.
Well, and I think to build on that point, I know a lot of people, they look at Roman and all the success that he brought. And of course, he is, I think, a lot of Chelsea fans' standard as far as what a great owner is. But I talked a little bit about this before we started this recording session. We were not great under Roman toward the end of his tenure here. Outside of the Champions League victory, we've not seen much success, and we're now dealing with the 74 charges that come from his time in charge of this club. I do think there is some frustration because we did have such a successful owner before, and a lot of people are living off of those, multiple leagues that he won, the multiple Champions Leagues.
No one ever liked their owners as much as we like Roman, man. That was a one-off in football history, basically. Like, I can't think of any other time in recent memory where a fan base has loved their owner. Do you know what I mean? Because Roman was a football guy, and that's so rare. So yeah, he was a bit of a unicorn in that term. But as you mentioned, 6-7 years preceding him leaving, things weren't very good. There's the 74 charges, which is, the same sort of thing that Man City have been done for. So, it's kind of my point, man.
Kai, what are your thoughts?
I think, I'd say they wouldn't necessarily destroy the club, because if the club was destroyed, the club wouldn't be here. But I do think they have wrecked the standard of what to expect, and we talk about it all the time, and we're talking about it right now, expecting top 4. When did that become our expectation? Years by, that was a given, and with the squad now that we have, it should technically still be a given. We're not making it easy for ourselves, and I like to lean more on the football and watch the football and talk about and criticize the football rather than the top. Yes, the top can make it easier, of course. You can say that about every club, but I do think they have wrecked the standard that the club was working on, the culture that was built, and they're trying to recreate it in their own sort of vision, which is clearly not going well. For me, they've had enough time to instill the culture, instill their vision, and we should be seeing success. We should be seeing consistency, but we're not. One of the things that stood with me when they come in is, the idea was to have a manager that was going to be here for years and was going to build up this consistency, this culture and everything like that. They've chopped and changed managers probably more than Roman ever did. If you think about it, I mean, we've gone through and I don't even count the interims that have been in, because then the list gets bigger. But it strikes me as a kid in a sweet shop who just doesn't know what they want, and they're just going to pick that, and that tastes good right now, but then they see something else and then they want that instead. And that's the kind of thing. And when Bowley took over, or they, because it's not just him, but when they all took over at the same time, that's what I mentioned this right at the start. If you're taking over a big institution, as Chelsea were, Champions League winners, whatever, you come in with a strategy, you come in with an idea, you come with all the staff and everything that you need implemented. The geezer didn't have any sporting directors. He thought, I'm just going to go play sporting director. And immediately when I saw that, I'm like, you can't do that. And yes, he went out and splashed cash, and he was talking about getting Ronaldo and unrealistic stuff, but you don't play football. You don't play it, especially if he had football background, not sports background. You'd go, okay, maybe you might know a little bit because you've been around the game. We've heard some of the stuff that Yatgi has come out with, and then it's not like the other people. Exactly, it's not like the other people that have taken charge have been any better. Now, fair play to them, they've stuck to their guns and they're really going for it. They're like, I don't care what you say, I'm doing it my way. But there has to be some common sense at a time going, we've tried it for 4 years and it just ain't working. Maybe we should just tweak it a little bit. They want to get youth, fine. I mean, we're not the only club doing it. We're just doing it on a dramatic, massive scale compared to everybody else. Stockpiling players. I mean, our player list is probably like 4 or 5 Excel spreadsheets long at this point. But they're not adding it with any experienced players, like you mentioned earlier. And for me, I feel like and I've mentioned this a lot of times, that we're letting these young players down. It's our duty to provide them with experience, to provide them with more knowledge, to help them better their careers and help them become better footballers. But we're not giving them that. We're not giving them that ability to learn quicker, to pick up things. And I feel like that's just a disservice to these players, and they just don't seem to be changing. Yeah. But that's the rant on the owners, because again, the football, again, just because we're not winning on the pitch, that's not just down to them, right? That is also down to the players, and that is also down to the manager. So there has to be some disconnect. When we win, it's the manager. When we lose, It's the owners, you know what I mean? It's got to be, give and take. But I'm hoping going into the summer, and I've said this every season now, that maybe they'll see the error in their ways, and maybe we'll see something different. But I can't see it happening. I can't see it. I feel like it's just going to be the same. We'll get all the rumours.
It's got to be at this point, man. It's got to be at this point, isn't it? I think what we'll see a little bit less of is 20 mil for Amari Kellyman and 20 mil for David Datre Fofana, and what was it, 7-8 mil for David Washington, and I think we'll start to see a little bit less of that. And because over the 4 years it's very, very rarely paid dividends. I think the only obvious one was what's his name, matey boy, the left back midfielder, Renato Vega. We got him for 9 mil, sold him for like 30 or whatever, so great profit, you know what I mean? But in general, like Diego Moreira, we bought him for really cheap and we sold him to Strasbourg for 1.8 mil. Do you know what I mean? There's not a huge amount in that. I think we'll start seeing a bit less of that, and maybe a bit more like looking for players under 25 who are currently performing well in their teams, rather than just purely looking at potential.
Yeah, one of the things I do think about it, right? So the youth approach that they're taking, we've had some gems, right? We've got some fucking worldy gems out of it.
Oh yeah.
You can also argue that the list of poor ones that they've bought is a lot longer. So if we're going to take the approach, right, of buying these youngsters, at least buy the best in class, buy the best youngster. So we had the opportunity. I know, I'm pretty sure he turned us down, but I also think it's down to what we were offering. We had the opportunity to sign Elise, who is probably arguably one of the best wingers of his generation. It's like 21. He's absolutely tearing up the Bayern Munich. He is the best in class of his age group right now on that side. Those, if we're going to go for the youth, buy the best in class. Spend the money to get the best.
Yes. 300k a week though, man.
I get that. Yeah. But if you think about it, we'll probably buy 10 of the players, like 10 players of, that will exceed the money that we would have spent on him. Mm-hmm. Hopefully we'll find one that becomes him, rather than going out and getting that one that could just elevate the team to the next level. That's,
This isn't me defending the owners, but if you do that, everyone's wages goes up. Everyone. Because if you get Elise on 300k a week, Cole Palmer's not going, that's all right. And Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo and Cucurella aren't going, that's fine. They're like, hold on a second. Yeah. When we came in, we were told we had to work for our improvements. Mm-hmm. And what you end up getting back into there, which is a little bit scary, is throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks, which is what we were doing with Roman at the end. But all you've done is change from getting the best players in class to the best young players in class. So it's a slippery slope, man. It's a really, really slippery slope.
It is, but if you buy 10 of those players that are all on like 40,
I'm not saying what they're doing. I'm not defending what they're doing.
No, I get what you're saying, but you know what I mean? They've spent like 10 and they've put all this money for 10 because they could get 4 or 5 of these magic players that turn out and get loads of money back, where they could have spent the same money and got the best in class, and we could have been at a better level.
It just sets a dangerous precedent. And like I say, for me, it's like, because the problem is as well, is like we know better than anyone what it's like to have a player on 300 grand a week who doesn't do anything. Do you know what I mean? So, and imagine you put all of your current first team players on 300 grand a week, and then they do what Sterling did, and they did what Aubameyang did when he got that deal at Arsenal, and then they just tail off.
This is a scary thought, Matt.
Yeah, go on.
Well, I'll let you finish first, but I'm going to drop it in there because
I'm done.
So we have a particular player on our hands, a particular captor, leader, legend.
Oh well,
that is approaching his end of contract.
2 years.
Exactly. So what's going to happen then? Because obviously he's been on it because that was given prior to this ownership coming in, or it was one of the things that they'd done when they come in when Todd Bowley was doing it. But we're talking about Reece James reaching the end of his contract, and these guys don't want to pay big wages. Are they just going to let him go?
Would anyone else pay him 300k a week?
Yes.
Who?
Man City. I know they may get relegated, but they definitely would.
I would say Liverpool.
Liverpool would try. Barcelona would try. I mean, they try for everybody. Yeah. Real Madrid will try. I mean, what are they paying Trent? I think they're paying Trent
like 250, 300k because they got him basically on. They only paid 10.
Yeah, they got him on a free. But let's say that. So say he gets to his last year and he's having a meeting and they're going, Reece, sorry mate, we can't pay you.
The thing is,
and he goes, I'm going to see the end out of my contract. I'll go for free and get my I don't want to see that happen.
It's like he is a 100 mil player on 350k plus a week. Look, obviously, if it was me, if it was my money, I'll give him whatever he wants.
Give him what he
Give him
Yeah,
whatever
just
he wants.
disclaimer, Chelsea fans, we don't want Reece
Yeah.
James to leave.
No.
Right,
Mate,
we want him
I'd
to
be
stay,
like,
but I'm just saying he's the one that's coming
mate,
up to the end.
I'll give you 500k a week for 20 years. Just never leave. Do you know what I mean? Just never leave. But no, you are right.
Yeah, it is something to discuss though, because we are seeing a lot of these players. They have been on such long contracts that we've not had to discuss this at all. But we are, he's come to the end. Is it Caicedo's got 2 or 3 left?
I swear I saw something about Caicedo and Enzo. Not that they've got some left, because I think it's like 2032, but they are asking for
They're asking
renewals.
for okay, that's what it is.
So they're going to be asking for more money.
Right.
So
Mate,
even though
Nicholas Jackson got a pay rise after his first season, so give it to Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So
the thing is with them, they
one.
are sorry to cut you off, mate.
It is,
Enzo, I want to say Enzo's like on 180 already, and I think Caicedo's in and around that too. So they're not going to ask for a 5k or 10k boost, are they? They're going to be asking for what, 220, maybe to 250, and then we're reaching like normal, or what would be considered normal.
They've proven themselves though, so that I do think it's a different conversation when you're talking about going out and buying, especially a young player like this. This conversation emanated from a 21-year-old Michael Elise. I think it's very, very different to give a 21-year-old Michael Elise from Crystal Palace 300k a week to join you than it is to have had Enzo Fernandez for 3 years, to have had Moises Caicedo for 2 years, and talk about putting them on over 200k. I do think, although I do understand what you're saying, like there is, especially with the Reece James thing, 100%. But I do think it's like no one in the squad is going to see Moises Caicedo or Enzo Fernandez get a pay rise and go, hold on a second. Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, well, they're 2 of the best players in the world and they've done it here and they deserve it. Whereas if you bring in a Michael Elise on more money than Cole Palmer after that season that he had, by the way, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cole Palmer's scored 24 goals in the Premier League and Elise is on 300k a week. He's going to be like, well, I'm definitely getting 300. Do you know what I mean? It's I feel like it is, you are 100% right about the Reece James thing. And yeah, for sure that,
I suppose the problem you have with the younger players going to other teams and getting these big wages, it then pulls them out of being in contention for us, because if they're already on a high wage, then they're not going to take a decrease, are they?
No, that's true.
They're going to want more, so that it kind of rules us out of kind of anyone
they're
in
going
that kind
to
of
like
level.
Saudi and stuff now as well, aren't they? Like John Duran went to Saudi just to get the bag and stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy.
It does feel like Saudi is kind of ruining a lot of some of these players that could make us better. Like I thought John Duran would have been a great pickup as another option to Jackson, but decided he wanted.
I do
more
think
money
Saudi
than that,
will disappear though, because remember when China come?
Yeah, same thing.
And we had buying Oscar and Alex Teixeira. I don't think it's going to be as.
It's a bit different. The political background, background is very, very different. Honestly, like without getting too much into it, it all comes down to oil. Saudi's money all comes from oil, but oil is running out. So Saudi are buying into football and sport in general. It's not even just football, sport in general, because they want to control media. So when they run out of oil, they've got a big thing. Do you know what I mean? With China, it was very much like, they just wanted to make loads of money out of it and stuff. But Saudi are trying to buy sport worldwide. I think a lot of it's happening in America.
They do a lot of boxing, don't they? Loads of boxing.
But yeah, I mean, this is probably something, honestly, we could do a whole video about, just talking about the financials involved with a lot of this, because obviously a lot of talk about like the what is it, pure profit, I think, coming from our academy and stuff like that. So might be something we could do in the future. But I guess last thoughts to sort of wrap this up is just looking ahead. We've got a big match against Arsenal on Sunday. I'm sure we're all going to have our own preview videos for that. But what are your final thoughts about that match? Do you think we've got a chance going to the Emirates? Are you hoping for a point? What are you thinking? Start with you, Matt.
I feel like I take Arsenal's performance against Wolves as being more important than the one against Tottenham. I think the fact that Wolves were able to get that out of them is more indicative of the fact that we can get a result out of this game, rather than looking at the Tottenham game where they got battered 4-1 because it's Tottenham and Tottenham are getting relegated. But no, I think this is probably the biggest chance we'll have to beat Arsenal this season. I think because the pressure's all on them. When we played them quite recently, it's been cup games, and obviously the game at Stamford Bridge, the pressure was pressure's on us. We're going to their backyard. They're the ones that need this win in order to stay in front in the Premier League. They're going to be under a lot more pressure than we are in order to win this game. Like, it won't be an enormous surprise if we don't win this game, but the internet will erupt if so much as a draw is gotten out of this game from Chelsea, I think. So I think we're in a much better stead to go into this game and get something out of it than Arsenal are.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the pressure is all on them, and you'll feel it in the stadium. The players will feel it. The fans will be nervous. Yes, they had a great victory against Tottenham, but it's Tottenham. You know, who doesn't beat Tottenham? So they're going to go into this game knowing what's at stake. All I want from them, right? We've had 2 cup games of recent time. One where we were a bit naive. We played some stupid football. We had some silly mistakes from the goalkeeper. And then the second game, we played some good football at times. We just didn't go for it. We just held back. They want to get something out of it. They have to go for it in this game. They have to attack. They have to be brave. And they will get a result. Because, again, I don't think Arsenal attack's great. And their defence has shown that they can be got at. Wolves managed to score 2 past them. And you can't tell me Wolves have a better front line than we do. So if they can do it and they can be brave and go do it, then we should be braver too. And that's all I want. Just be brave and actually go for it. We do that, I think we'll get a result.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for coming onto the channel. Again, please check out their channels Behind the Dugouts and Stamford Sink. Both of them great videos almost every day, at least definitely before and after every batch for sure. But thank you guys so much for coming on. And with all that being said, cue the outro. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more Chelsea previews, reviews, and talks. Also, let me know what your thoughts are down below, whether you agree, disagree, or just want to call me stupid. Let me know, we can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Also, if you want to hear me talk about TV shows and movies that I like, check out my channel Mason the Brock Henderson, where I upload reviews every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. As well as if you want to watch me play through video games and try to make it entertaining for you, I have a Let's Play channel, Meso Hendo Plays, where I upload every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Also, if you do want to help me grow this channel, I do have a Patreon where all the funds and donations will go directly into improving this channel's quality. I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to y'all later. Peace out, and up the Chels.